Welcome back to Atomic Diecast. Today I'm going to review a car I've drooled over for nearly 40 years. It's a 1987 Buick Grand National. Back in the 1980s, the car took many by surprise. It would out-accelerate Corvettes, Porsche 911s, Ferraris minus the F40, and even the Lamborghini Countach from that era. The roots of the Grand National date back to 1978. That year, Buick introduced a turbo version of their 3.8-liter motor. Those engines were very reliable and topped with a mild turbo, yielded about 165 horsepower, which was comparable to V8s of that period. My family had a 1978 Turbo Regal, I remember as a kid, and my dad used to say the only way you knew the turbo was working was whether the boost gauge was lit. The car just wasn't that fast. But those Turbo Regals laid the groundwork for the menacing Grand Nationals that would follow. In 1981, Buick still offered a V8, albeit a small 265 cubic inch block. That was up to 305 cubic inches in 86 and 87, but they were lethargic. The Turbo 3.8s were still the top performance option, and they came by way of the Grand National and or the T-Type badging. In 1982, the Grand National name was first used in honor of Buick's involvement in NASCAR. They either had a 252 cubic inch V6 or a turbo 3.8 liter. 215 were produced that year, and they didn't shake the car community much. There were no Grand Nationals in 83, only the T-Type. 3,732 were produced with 180 horsepower, 265 foot-pounds of torque, which wasn't bad. I can't remember the color scheme on the 83 T-Types, except I do not believe they had one that was all black. They were either two-tone black and gray or solid silver. I think they also might have had a burgundy version. In 1984, the classic Grand National look was unveiled. It was all black, had a 200 horsepower turbo 3.8 liter. They used slotted black chrome wheels, black and chrome wheels, I should say, and it just made the Grand National look meaner. 5204 came off the line that year. They continued into 85. There were no changes, same motors, same wheels, same black paint. And performance-wise, those 84, 85 Grand Nationals would do about 15.9 seconds in the quarter mile. Not great, but not bad considering the fact that IROC C28s and Corvettes in the mid-80s did about the same. In 1986, Buick gave the Grand National an air intercooler that pushed horsepower to 235. 52 or 5,500 were produced that year, along with about 2,384 T-Types. In 1986, they switched the wheels to a chrome and black that would remain for 1987, and I think those are the best looking wheels that they used, even better than the GNX, which I'll get to in a minute. 1987 also saw an increase in horsepower. Now, 1986, again, they bumped the horsepower from 200 to 235, which is pretty good. They went up another 10 in 1987, and the torque figure peaked out at 335 foot-pounds, which would shred some tires. In 1987, Grand National would do 0 to 60 in just under 5 seconds. Quarter miles were in the 13.8, 13.9 range. That was fast again for the 1980s. I remember being at a gas station around 1989 or so, filling up my tank, and I saw a Grand National across the street at a light, and the light turned green. The guy stabbed it, the tires smoked, the car launched once it hooked, and it loudly chirped the tires going into second gear. And I thought, wow, all that from a V6. So they were quick, and they were, again, mean-looking cars, being all black. Buick sold 20,740 Grand Nationals in 1987, which was their peak production. But they knew it would be their last year. Buick was switching to a front-wheel drive, mid-sized lineup in 1988. But they did not let the Grand National go out without a bang. They created something called the GNX, which stood for the Grand National Experimental. They made 547 of those cars. And the way they did it is they partnered with McLaren Performance Technologies. The cars got a special Garrett T3 turbocharger. They got a larger intercooler. They had lower restriction exhaust. A 200R or 4R transmission was again used, but it locked up tighter than the previous versions used in base Grand Nationals. The wheels were a black honeycomb with a chrome accent. They look pretty good. Again, I kind of like the original 86, 87 wheels a tad better, but nonetheless, the GNX was a mean-looking car. Uh, the horsepower, and this is something that a lot of people can argue about all day, GM understated the horsepower. They said the horsepower for the GNX was 276, the torque was 360. As I've said in other videos, GM has a tendency to understate power. I don't know if that's for insurance purposes or what, but in reality, the horsepower was at least 300. Some people said the GNXs were even higher than that. In the dig, these cars would do a 0 to 60 in about 4.5 seconds. A quarter miles were anywhere from 12.7 to 13.1. Tire spin was a problem. If you did it on the street, you probably wouldn't get anywhere close to high 12s, but on a strip with good tires, they were capable of being in the 12s. So in the late 1980s, and this is where I'll transition into the Hot Wheels version of this car, in the late 80s and early 90s, I kept waiting for Hot Wheels to do a Grand National. They were really popular. Even though they were a limited car, they got a lot of press. Kids loved them. Street racers loved them. They had a couple in my area that used to street race, and they did quite well on the street. But it could have been a licensing issue or something like that. Who knows? Then in 2007, they finally did come out with a Grand National as part of their main line. I thought the rendition was spot on. The only thing that I didn't like about the Hot Wheels version from 07 was they used a chrome 5-spoke wheel, which is a wheel I really like on other Hot Wheels, but the Grand Nationals always had a lot of black on their wheel pattern, and I just felt the all chrome 5-spoke just did not scream Grand National. Though the body and the paint, they did a good job with the casting. So it looked a bit off, but it was fine. They also cast them in 07 in burgundy, blue, silver, which I thought was kind of goofy. Buick never made a Grand National in any of those schemes, even though T-types might have had different colors back in the early 80s. Buick Grand Nationals are always black. But after the 2007 versions, they came out with quite a few others, again using various color schemes. They did a flat black in 2012 as part of their Boulevard series. They did a gold Grand National in 2011 as part of the Hot Ones lineup. I think there was a Real Riders version in 2013 done with a black Spectre flame paint. That looked pretty good. And the list goes on and on. I mean, there's just too many to cover in such a short video. The one you're seeing here is from the 2015 Fast and Furious collection. I think it does the best job in capturing the all-black Grand National, especially the wheels. The paint's pretty good. This is a metal body, of course, on black plastic base. The model code is K6142, and these came out of Thailand. Now, there are no, as you can see here, there are no headlight or taillight details, which is fine. Again, this was, the Fast and Furious collection was not really a premium. It was a tad bit above a mainline. But they did a great job on the badging. You can see on the front quarters and even the rear deck lid, they do have the Grand National logo there, which I think looks great, because if they didn't, the car being all black would just look too plain. The only thing I don't like about this car is you'll see on the lower, once the car comes around here, on the lower driver's side rocker panel, there is a Universal Studios trademark, and they had to do that, I guess, because this is deemed a Fast and Furious car, so the movie rights had to be somehow covered on this thing. It had to go somewhere. Why they didn't put it on the base, I don't know. Maybe there wasn't enough room. I did weigh this car. It came in at 33 grams, which isn't real heavy, but it's not real light either. So that's it for the overview, and we'll do a roll test now. Okay, 3 rolls. We'll take an average, and we'll see if this car can perform on the track or not. Roll 1 is terrible. It went to 1.5. It pulled to the right and literally rubbed on the side of the track. Roll number 2. Still not good. It went a little bit further. Did not quite make it to 2. We'll do one more. So each time it pulls to the right, it rubs on the edge and is not even getting to 2. So I gotta say, as neat as this car looks, it is a terrible roller. So thank you for watching, and please be sure to like and subscribe.